Hey there, Internet Drifters. It's Izanami-kun back with Royalty Noob number 3. We haven't really done a whole lot in the colony so far. We've just got a room and some plans for... Well, I guess we got a little bit of planting in. Some plans for this patch of Earth. And that's really about it. We haven't done a whole lot. It's been a slow beginning. Not as slow as Flasher though, right? So we were also going over these things in the last video, and we kind of went a little bit over zones. You can have the build roof area, growing zone, stockpile zone. We will never have to worry about the snow clear area zone because it apparently will never snow here. There's expand allowed area, and we can change these areas. The home area is through here. I don't really know why it's here and it's here. To be honest with you, I think we only really need the one. But you can create new areas. You can delete the areas. You can rename the areas. You can create the area. So area 1. You can create the area and then manage it. And now you want to invert it. So now the allowed area is everything but that square. And that's pretty cool. That can be useful. You can clear the allowed area so that it has no place allowed. And that's cool too. So there's this shrink zones thing, which will work on stockpile zones. See, now it has one square less. If I want to make it bigger, then I have to do that. I can make this growing zone one square less, and then make it bigger. You can do that with all of the zones. So this just shrinks any zone. I think it also does, let's see, area 1 and then shrink zones. Oh, nope. Apparently that one is not included in the shrink zone. So that's, I guess, an area, whereas these are zones. So not shrink area, shrink zones. So that's the zone tab, and you'll be using that quite a bit playing RimWorld. There's this there's a way of intricately managing your stockpiles that I'm sure I will go into, because I'm really big on making sure everything has a place that is organized and fluid. And then we have orders. This is another one of the more popular ones. These two are super important. This is where you can select, so I want to harvest something, anything. Do we have anything? Well, I don't actually want to harvest these, but if I did, I could say, I want to harvest you. I want to harvest you. Or you can click and drag, which, let's cancel these. And click and drag, and it'll select everything that is harvestable in that square. Same thing with mine. If I want to mine, I want to cancel, and cancel. I mean, it's fairly self-explanatory when you really think about it, but you may not think about it right off the bat. Haul things is for like stone chunks and they're there. And steel slag chunks. Everything else is automatically hauled if it's not disallowed. So then we have other orders like smooth surface. And this one is actually also in floors. So I don't think I've ever used it in the orders, but you can if you're already there and you're like, oh, well, might as well. So then you can select that and then select that. And then when they get around to it, it'll be like the last thing that they do. And they will smooth those out and they will look all pretty and wonderful. Which we'll do that eventually, but not right now. Chop wood. Same thing as harvest. You can select a large area. For some reason, it uses the harvest symbol. I don't know why. You can plant cut. That will also select the grass. So be careful when using that because you may end up having them waste a lot of time cutting the grass down. I don't usually do cut plants unless I'm building something and, you know, there's a plant inside that needs to be cut down. But honestly, unless it's a tree, it usually just needs to wait and it'll die eventually. If it is a tree and it's not big enough to chop the wood, then, you know, I just hover over and chop the wood. But that's me. You can play it either way. So then there's also hunt. Where's some stuff? There's some stuff. So let's say that I'm looking at these and I'm like, yeah, I wanna hunt all of them. So I take the hunt and then over, and now I'm gonna hunt everything. The same thing works with slaughter, but you actually have to have the animals, and then you just drag it like that, and then it'll go over everything. Tame, same thing. Boom, tames all of them. And this is where it gets interesting, because I don't think I've ever used that button, but if you have a pile of corpses, you can click and drag, and it will select for you to strip all of the corpses, which is a little morbid, but some colonies go that way. Same thing with claim. I've never needed that particular order, but it's a thing. And then uninstall, which if you have a bunch of actual furniture, you can click and drag. It doesn't work on the sleeping spots because they're not really furniture. So you can click and drag and it'll uninstall a bunch of that stuff. Open, you'll find things, and I don't go to the orders to do these three. I'll go to the item itself if I want to forbid it. If I want to forbid a certain type, like I want to forbid all of the survival meals, I can double click and then do that. I mean, you can also do this, but then you forbid everything indiscriminately. And maybe that's what you want. Maybe that's how you want to play it. Okay, and then the last thing in orders is planning. And if you're really big on base building, this allows you to make very crude plans, because these are the only shapes that they give you, and remove them. And that's it. Everything else has its own little purpose. The structures for building things. Production is for building machines that help you make stuff. Furniture, pretty self-explanatory. Power, also self-explanatory. It gives you things that produce electricity. Miscellaneous will give you graves. The tool cabinets are pretty useful for the production furniture stuffs. These spots may or may not be important to you. Early on in the game, they're not super useful. But as you get better at doing the game, these might make more sense to actually do something with. I've never made these. These are actually somewhat new to the most current update. So we'll have to try those on and see what those actually do. Security obviously is for security. Helps you to better deal with the raids. I don't rely a whole lot on these, but I think maybe I should more. Especially now that they've got a wooden barricade, which is kind of cool. And the sandbags are now made of cloth instead of using steel. They used to use steel, and so there was really no point in making them, because I'm like, I'm not using my steel on a fucking sandbag. There are way better things to use steel on. So what I would do personally is I would use chunks. Is I would just set the chunks around. Do like a stockpile zone, like that. And then have that just be filled with chunks. And that works. I mean, it does a decent enough job at slowing down the enemy, and you can hide behind those chunks pretty well too. So if you want to know, their cover effectiveness is 50 versus sandbags. Cover effectiveness is 57, so it's not really that big of a difference, which is probably why I've never really used sandbags before. And then there's floors, which, ooh, that one's new. But it's where you do floors, and it doesn't say how fast you move on those particular floors, but so anyway, this will help you to move them faster. If you look down here in this little section at the bottom right, over rough limestone, walk speed is 87%. Over soil, it's 87%. Let's see. Flagstone, it's 100%. And tile, it's 100%. So you can see how you do a lot better on certain floors than others, and that's kind of the reason why that's important. Also, there's there it is, beauty display. Unless it's got like dandelions on it, the regular dirt and the rough stone really aren't very pretty. However, the tile has a beauty of 1. The flagstone is not even registered. It has 0. Which in rooms may become very important. Ooh, that hurt my eyes a little. And then, yeah, if you haven't noticed already, there's these nifty little menu things. This will change how the resources over here are displayed. So if you like it that way or that way, and then this will show you, oh, this is your overall medicine. This is how much of what kind of medicines. This is your overall resources, and these are the breakdowns. And then you can just go like this. And just leave it open like that. Or you could just have them like that. We already talked about the visibility of roofs. Fertility overlay. This is kind of what I was talking about with the soil thing. But this gives you a much better idea of what kind of fertility you're looking at. The rich soil is obviously the dark green. The regular soil is regular green, and not so great areas are yellow. This one is terrain affordance. Ah, there we are. This is what you would need these for. So you can't build, you can build it on that red part, but you can't build it over here. It's not bridgeable. But in order to build, say, a wall, you would need to have a bridge so that it would support the wall. On maps with a lot of this red stuff, those bridges are really helpful. Automatic rebuild of destroyed structures in the home area. I have never even seen this one. I think it's a new thing. I don't have any use for it, but maybe someday we'll just click that on and see what happens. The learning helper is a thing that pops up here sometimes, I think. I haven't seen it in a long time. If you don't like seeing your zones on the map, then you can just click that and then you can't see it anymore. It's still there, but you can't see it. I don't like that. I want to know where my zones are at. We went over the beauty display. It'll show you areas that need improvement so that when you look in a room, where is the room? There it is. The room stats display. You can see, okay, well, it's not very impressive. It's actually kind of awful. It's pretty dirty. It's hideous. Everything about it is terrible except for space. And so you can go back with the beauty display and be like, oh, well, it's because of the wood. Maybe I should build something for the wood to go in and some of these other things. But that might not be important to you right now. And then the colonist bar, which is this thing at the top, which I have never turned off. Ever. I didn't even know that was a thing. Alright, well now you're all caught up and we haven't really done anything at all. So before we end the video with having done nothing at all, let's just let them kind of go and see what they come up with. One of the earliest necessities is having things to do. Having entertainment. So I'm going to put this right here. It can be moved after it's built. So it's not a big deal if you place it in a place that you're like, this is a bad placement for it. Not a huge deal. Also, it uses wood, and wood's pretty plentiful around here. So you can reinstall it at any time. No penalty. But now that they have that, their entertainment, their recreation, they have more types. So the more types they have available, the better, because your tolerance, the tolerance they have for different recreations will give them less recreation points per time spent doing it or whatever. Oh, that's going to spoil very soon. So we're going to go to temperature, which we didn't really cover temperature or recreation. Recreation is pretty self-explanatory. Temperature is also self-explanatory, but needs a little bit of discussion. So we've got a passive cooler, which I'm going to put in there so that it keeps this area cooler than the outside. It's the cheapest thing that we can do right now because we don't have any power sources. And that would take a little bit of planning to really do this episode, so we won't do that. There's a campfire, which you can cook on. It will generate heat though, so it would have to go outside. And I could go up to doing the electric stove or the fueled stove. It takes 80 steel. And I think I'm going to do that. I'll do the fueled stove. And we'll put that somewhere. We'll be able to move it after it's placed. So we'll put it right there. And now we can add a cook fine meal until you have 10. And somebody will do it. Oh good, he will. And it's already fueled up and ready to go. So here's another thing. So merging's a thing. Sometimes they really like to spread out. Like, look at this. What the hell is this shit? Merge that. And then Nelson just came along and made 2 different piles for no fucking reason whatsoever. I'm going to keep them from being able to eat these so that they eat the fine meal first, because this spoils in 4 days and these spoil never. So long as they have a roof over them and you know, they're protected from the elements with walls and roofs, they will last indefinitely. And we can't even make the packaged survival meals yet. And then just so that 2 doesn't go completely to waste, we'll have him cook some simple meals after he's done cooking fine meals. So he can't make another fine meal because that would take 5 meat and 5 vegetable. So instead, I guess he'll just take all the fucking berries and not use the meat at all. Of course not. That would make too much sense, wouldn't it, Nelson? Asshole. I think that's enough for this episode. We went over the basics. Didn't do a whole lot of actual base building or gameplay, but I think it was still worthwhile. We got a stove out of the deal, and we've got this nifty cooler thingy, which if you can see over here where it says outdoors 67, now indoors it's 62. It's 5 degrees cooler. And it doesn't do a whole lot of extra cooling, but it does enough to where it makes a bit of a difference when they're sleeping. Not so much with spoilage though. So we'll need to get on making power and freezers and all the basic stuff that RimWorldians are very used to being a part of the beginning. We will end here, and if you like the video. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do so. And I will see you in the next video.